Stunts from famous movies that went seriously off the rails.
But before we start, please take a moment to give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll never miss these great stories.
Being a stunt performer might just be the most thankless job in Hollywood. Even if they're flipping a car, jumping from an explosion, or taking a knockout punch, stunt doubles are usually an afterthought once credits roll, even though they put their lives on the line. Some of the death-defying moments that made these famous films pop with intensity had stunt artists staring death or injury in the face, and not even Hollywood magic could cover up their very real wounds. Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. Stunt double Olivia Jackson had worked on major blockbusters like Mad Max: Fury Road and Star Wars: A Force Awakens. But it was while working on Resident Evil that Jackson crashed her motorcycle into a crane-mounted camera. Suffering a spine injury, she was placed in an induced coma for 17 days, and her left arm was amputated. Although she successfully sued against those responsible, she is still recovering. Stunt performer Lisa McCullough belonged to the team that chased down Michael J. Fox's lead character on hoverboards, culminating in a crash into a clock tower. After a few failed attempts, McCullough said she wouldn't perform the stunt anymore. Cheryl Wheeler-Dixon took over. She hit one of the pillars and fell 30 feet onto concrete. She survived, but with face injuries. Stuntman Art Scholl was an expert pilot, so for the Tom Cruise-led flick, Scholl was tasked with operating a camera-rigged plane to follow the fighter jet action. One scene required he spin and recover his plane, but the recovery never came. "I have a problem, I have a real problem," he said over the radio, just before he crashed into the ocean. Stuntman Jim Shepard took on a sequence where a character was dragged to death by a horse. But horses are harder to control than humans, and the animal used in filming went way off course and literally dragged Jim to his death. Unbelievably, the take is actually in the final film. The scene cuts off before the moment Shepard struck his head on a fence post. In 2017, Joy Harris performed a high-speed stunt on a motorcycle down a ramp of stairs. It ended horribly when she struck the side of a building. An investigation revealed multiple mistakes, from the lack of a helmet for Harris and the lack of barriers to protect her. For this movie's opening car chase, performer Aris Komnenos rode as a passenger in one of the pursuing vehicles. Without warning, his vehicle hit into another and then broke through a guard wall, dangling the car over the edge of a 50-foot drop. Rescuers bolted to ensure Komnenos and his driver weren't still in the car if it went over. His driver was left in better condition as Komnenos fell into a short-term coma. In this movie, Sonja Davis acted as the stunt double for actress Angela Bassett. Davis felt extremely uncomfortable with one of the movie's planned stunts, a 40-foot drop onto an airbag. Nevertheless, she took the plunge and was catapulted off the padding when it popped on impact. She died from injuries 13 days later, and her family later sued for a failure of providing key safety equipment. They won $10 million. For an action scene in The Avengers, Jeremy Fitzgerald had to fall 30 feet. If the fall wasn't risky already, there was a jagged rain gutter below that could make a wrong move a deadly one. When he began the stunt, Fitzgerald stumbled and fell onto bricks. Despite it tearing off some of his scalp, Fitzgerald considered it as a flesh wound and continued working. Meet Larry Rippenkroger, who was Bruce Willis's stunt double. He went over a fire escape and fell 25 feet before hitting the pavement. He suffered broken bones in his face, fractured wrists, and broken ribs, all of which resulted in a temporary production shutdown. Willis was by his side as the stuntman healed. Movie stunts can be dangerous for those nearby. H.B. Halicki directed this film, and during production he oversaw a major set piece, a tumbling water tower. Something went wrong, however, and the collapsing tower knocked over a telephone pole, which struck and killed Halicki. Production never resumed. In this film, Scott McLean performed a scene as the double for Ed Helms' character. With Scott's head out a taxi window, the stunt driver erred and hit another vehicle, giving the stunt performer a gash on the head and torn flesh. He survived and sued the producers and Warner Brothers. When a film has more than one stunt go wrong, there may be a problem. On set, Kun Lu below was killed by an explosion that also injured stuntman Nuo Sun. As Jet Li's stunt double, Sun damaged his head, arms, legs, neck, and nervous system. He sued Millennium Films, as did Kun Lu's family, for negligence. For a sequence where a car was sent over a waterfall, stuntman Terry Leonard and Vince Dedrick Jr. were supposed to jump away from the vehicle and the whirlpool below. During filming, though, Leopard's jumping platform broke, and he fell into the water. Dedrick Jr. hit the water so hard that he was left stunned. Rescuers saved them both. For the Vin Diesel-led action film, stunt double Harry O'Connor was a former Navy SEAL. He was tasked with an aerial stunt where he slid down a parasailing line, and he was supposed to land onto a submarine below. At the high speeds he was going, however, O'Connor hit into a bridge and was killed instantly. His last moments are still seen in the film. AJ Bakanas had done everything right for his stunt performance. He was to fall from 22 stories and land onto an airbag. He fell correctly and he should have survived, but the airbag was faulty. The landing pad failed upon his impact, splitting in two. Bakanas died the next day from his injuries. Lead actor and stunt artist Dylan O'Brien had to jump from one vehicle to another in this film, but he wasn't successful. The star of the film was dragged underneath the first vehicle and he suffered fractures to his cheekbones and orbital sockets, and a concussion too. His severe injuries postponed the film's release. Stuntman Laird Hamilton performed plenty of tricks on a jet ski for this classic film, and then his vehicle ran out of gas. This left him stranded for hours on the open ocean, and eventually the U.S. Coast Guard had to get involved in his rescue. He was a legendary surfer, and perhaps it helped him survive. During filming for Peter Jackson's prequel trilogy, 27 animals died. No one was held accountable as it didn't happen on an active set, but many deaths were contributed to failed safety standards. Sinkholes caused by underwater stress were a #1 killer, ensnaring many animals. Gabriella Cedillo wasn't a double but an extra. For her scene, she needed to drive her car down the highway while the stunt performers weaved in and out of traffic. During her drive, a cable snapped and smashed Cedillo's windshield, striking her in the head and causing several injuries. The day before, the stunt failed in the exact same way. She won $18 million in a lawsuit. For a broomstick flying sequence deemed too risky for Daniel Radcliffe, producers called on stuntman David Holmes during the flight. A controlled explosion went off early, slamming Holmes into a wall and breaking his neck. In the aftermath, the good friend of Radcliffe, they'd worked together in several films, was paralyzed in every limb. Bobby Holland Hanton, Chris Hemsworth's body double for Thor, has said it's very difficult to keep up with Hemsworth's physique. He even has to get reps in the gym during their lunch breaks while shooting. In Kill Bill, Uma Thurman plays a badass hitwoman. Like any Quentin Tarantino movie, violence and action are a constant. That's where Zoe Bell came in. Guess it's Bell who had the sword skills in real life. Sometimes stunt doubles hit it big and stick around for the long run. That's exactly what happened for Phil Ball, who's been Brad Pitt's double for the majority of his movies since his early career. Talk about hitting the jackpot. Best known as the Mother of Dragons, Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke needed a double for some of the action-packed show's more intense scenes. Rosie Mack, the model who was chosen, didn't even audition. Rather, one of her social media posts got her noticed. Bruce Willis is an action movie megastar with multiple stunt doubles who have followed him throughout his career. But Stuart Wilson, who also coordinates all his stunts, takes the cake for being the best lookalike. Zoe Saldana's character in Guardians of the Galaxy, Gamora, required facial prosthetics and coloring. This allowed Chloe Bruce, a professional martial artist, to fill in for her in more action-packed moments while wearing a specially made mask. Ian McKellen had 2 stunt doubles as Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The much taller double was used to make the actors who played the hobbits look shorter than they actually were. Turns out the unorthodox method saved a lot of money on special effects. Not all doubles get along with their lead actor. Sarah Lane, right. Natalie Portman's dancing double in Black Swan caused controversy when she claimed that 95% of the full body shots in the movie were her, despite Portman's claims that she did most of the dancing herself. While it's no secret that big-name actors usually have stunt doubles, most of us really never consider that these fill-ins sometimes get hurt. That's exactly what happened to Chris Pratt's stuntman Tony McFarr, who fell during the opening sequence of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and actually needed staples in his head. Gal Gadot has played some of the most powerful women in cinema, including Wonder Woman. Still, even she needs a stunt double. While Gal was pregnant during the filming of Wonder Woman, her look-alike Alicia Vela Bailey took care of most of the more physically demanding heroics. Even former WWE stars use stunt doubles on occasion, and Dave Bautista in Guardians of the Galaxy was no exception. Robert de Groot took over for some of the riskier stunts performed by Drax in the movie. That's right, Marvel fans, his name is de Groot. Jennifer Garner has had the same stunt double for nearly her entire career, from Alias to Elektra and Daredevil. Shauna Duggins has been by Garner's side through it all. She was even the first stunt woman nominated for a Stunt Coordinator Emmy. Even Avengers need stunt doubles. Mark Ruffalo's double, Anthony Molinari, looks like he could be his brother in real life. Molinari handled some of the heavy lifting for the Hulk. Margot Robbie had a meteoric rise to fame, and she deserved it. While working on Suicide Squad, she found a perfect match in her stunt double. Ingrid Kleinig filled in flawlessly in scenes that were too dangerous for Margot, including the underwater car crash. The Governator had a look-alike stuntman who doubled for him for most of his career. Peter Kent got his start as Arnold's double for the entire Terminator series, hopefully telling him, "I'll be back," after they wrapped shooting on each film. Sometimes the stunt double doesn't need to look like the lead, as was the case with Ryan Reynolds' double in Deadpool. Alex Kiskovich did all of the stunts in both Deadpool movies, but a side-by-side comparison shows little similarity. Megan Fox is no stranger to taking risks. In fact, she does a lot of her own stunts, when they're manageable, of course. Her double, Stacey Carino, is a veteran stunt woman who actually broke her neck on the job at one point. Luckily, she fully recovered. Chandler Riggs, America's favorite zombie-killing kid from The Walking Dead, definitely needed a stunt double for some of his gnarlier zombie-slaying scenes. Unfortunately, producers couldn't find an adult male that could fill in, so they went with Emily Probst, a seasoned stunt woman, instead. Once again, Zoe Bell makes the list of legendary stunt doubles for her time filling in for Lucy Lawless on the set of Xena Warrior Princess. Just another shining spot on her illustrious stunt doubling resume. We didn't think it was possible to look buff next to the legendary Rock, but Reed somehow pulls it off. His cheat day meals must be pretty impressive. Here, Reeves' stunt double accompanies him during the filming of John Wick for a scene in which the character is forced to escape a motorcycle brigade on horseback. Barry is one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood, so it would be an honor to be her double. Gibbs has stood in for the actress in many harrowing action scenes. It's no wonder the swashbuckling stunts of Depp's Pirates of the Caribbean saga require an occasional stunt double to get things done. Look-alike Angelotti is the perfect person for the job. It's hard to tell these two studs apart, but on the left is Evans, and on the right is his double, whose extensive training in martial arts helps him execute jaw-dropping feats on screen. This rugged pair has worked together on multiple critically acclaimed films, including The Revenant in 2015, and most recently the action-packed Mad Max Fury Road. Styling is half the battle when it comes to stunt doubles, and it's frankly impressive how closely the hair and makeup artists are able to mimic Affleck's signature scruff on Citroën. Even with Stan's face partially obscured, it's easy to see how close these two resemble each other. Young is responsible for many of the impressive stunts done by Stan's character in Captain America: Civil War. At least from the neck down, these two are pretty indistinguishable. In this case, Scott stood in for Efron, not because of a dangerous stunt, but because the scene required more nudity than Efron was comfortable with. This one is truly uncanny. Leslie looks so much like Witherspoon that she could honestly be her long-lost twin. Maybe they should try a DNA